Warm greetings to everyone on this wonderful day and occasion. Happy International Women's Day. Welcome to my LinkedIn live show, Nothing Less Than Marvelous, where every fortnight I'll be having remarkable guests on my show who will be sharing their stories. International Women's Day is celebrated on 8th March, and the month of March is a celebration of womanhood. It is a time to reflect on the progress made, to call for change, and to celebrate acts of courage and determination by ordinary women who have played an extraordinary role in the history of their countries and communities. Today, we have amongst us one such lady who has faced unfathomable challenges early in life, and today she stands as an inspiring leader people look up to. It's a pleasure to welcome my very special guest speaker, Izabela Lundberg from Colorado, USA, who is an international keynote speaker and best selling author of a book, The World Messenger From Fear to Greatness, Business, Sports, and Life Lessons. As a genocide, tortured, war trauma, and cancer survivor, Isabella fully understands what it what is needed to transform life from fear to greatness. She is known as the girl that helped us to restore our dreams in the global circles of survivors. Isabella has traveled over 50 countries while working with diverse teams from over 120 countries and has a dynamic worldview after living in 6 countries, speaking 6 languages. She has established Legacy Leaders Institute, a premier platform developed for executive and organizational advisory, coaching, consulting, and training. She is recognized catalyst of sustainable solutions for global leaders and their most pressing challenges. Isabella hosts the Legacy Leaders Show, a top rated global business and entrepreneurship podcast offering real and raw business, sports, and life lessons with practical advice for current and upcoming leaders. Isabella is recognized as a people champion, LinkedIn influencer, Forbes contributing writer, and Forbes Coaches Council members. Let's put our hands together to welcome Isabella Lundberg. Isabella, it's absolutely a pleasure to have you on my show, and I'm super delighted to be talking to you.
Oh my goodness. First of all, I just want to say thank you for this amazing intro. You did homework. You checked my website. You pull all this information, and I'm just blown away how much effort you put in just to also share about my work. And you didn't miss anything. So thank you, first of all, for doing that and for having me on your show. It's absolute pleasure, and it's so great to have exposure to your community in India and across the globe because India and Asia have a very special place in my heart. So great to be with you.
Isabella, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much. And today we meet at a time when our world faces many global challenges from climate change, armed conflict, humanitarian emergencies, and then there is inequality. Despite women's achievements and successes, their voices are still routinely overlooked and their opinions ignored. Almost all women have their, share of problems, violation of their liberty, limitations of their choices. There are instances of molestation, there is rape, threat, almost everything that society makes us go through. If our education doesn't influence us as a person beyond our exams and careers, then it is pointless. Our learnings must make us realize that if we don't stand up for other women, then we will forever struggle through the oppression that are forced upon us. Gender equality is not only to be celebrated on International Women's Day, but also every day of the year. And everyone deserves to have access to the same opportunities. So people have, different definitions and perspective of womanhood. For some, womanhood is the qualities considered to be natural to a woman. Whereas for some, womanhood is wearing heels and lovely clothes, as well as wear, boots if required. So, what are your thoughts on womanhood?
Thank you for asking that question and then sharing your perspective because You encompass so many issues that we're still dealing in the 21st century, which I personally find it to be unacceptable because we have so much knowledge, power, and opportunity to access to information. And when we know more, we do better. Unfortunately, we're not doing as better on the global scale, and specifically the way women are represented, treated, and also honored and celebrated. Women are extremely powerful. They're strong, and we need to accept their strength. Their strength is not necessarily in physicality, but if needed to be, can be. But it's more also about emotional, mental, physical, overall holistic, right? We're the reason nurturers, but in the same
Yeah.
time, we're also the ones who really see the bigger pictures that can really solve complex issues and have
Yeah.
a better to create not only perspective but contribution in all aspects of life. Are we talking about at home and households? Are we talking about in work and settings, in communities? And it's a time to break these biases. We can't just honor the woman based on their, as you said, their beauty or their looks and appearances or youth or whatever. We need to stop that sexism. We need to also stop the way we are not treated equal, that our opinion matters, that we have something important to contribute. What I'm seeing is happening right now, obviously in a modern time. Women's expectation of women in home don't diminish, but yet they're also breadwinners. They work very hard, yet they're not getting so much support across the board, and they have to work often 2 or 3 or 4 to prove themselves. And that needs to stop. To who do we have to prove? For someone who is weaker, insecure, someone who is just making ridiculous acceptable rules? I'm seeing this pattern sadly in the United States. So I can't blame other parts of the world when I'm seeing this happen in my backyard. I'm seeing evidence of that happen in Europe, where I originally came from. But in some areas, things are better. And then in some areas, things are worse. Through my travels, I also see some improvements depending on which parts of the world. So what we need to
Yeah.
do more than ever, Wakanda, is to create, yes, you're right, partnership and alliances, and show what these role models look like and what should a woman model after and what should be they recognized for, because we also have to have much more stronger leadership, strong presence, and strong opportunity truly not only to vote, to expand our reach, but in the same time, as you said, support one another. Nothing happens of greater good to anyone unless we step back and say, if I want to progress, make things better, if I want these laws to pass, if I want these examples to last or be showing the role models of the youth and future generation of both boys and girls, so that boys can recognize what they need to do better or what they need to do to embrace what is going on, as well the girls to have a more self-esteem, confidence, self-respect. It's a
Mm.
vicious cycle if we don't. So we need to rise up together, and we need to hold everybody accountable and hold everybody to very high standards. I believe that is the solution that's going to move us forward.
Yes, very, very how well, it was, you said it so well. And so, because mostly people think that, womanhood is just being a woman or something, but it's not just being a woman, because womanhood is so much more than that. It is like, like you said, is the strength and is the tenderness as well, and then it is also the ability to push yourself and lift yourself up, and as well as lift the others up. And then it is not just defined by relationships or jobs or body parts or anything else. It is not defined by anyone or anything but women, us ourselves, the women themselves. It is affirming to us that we are powerful, that women are powerful, that women can women are worthy, and that they are deserving of every sweet things that the world can offer. And I think women means having a strong sense of women should have a strong sense of identity, accepting their body as one that adapts and changes over time, and being confident. um, Isabel, it was so nice to hear you, speak on this question that I'd asked you. And I had been reading your articles and listening to your podcast and your life journey. What caught my breath was your recent article, Global Leaders. What about refugees? And I teared up visualizing and feeling the unfathomable pain and the terror and the trauma that the children, the parents, the elderly, the families go through in war zones, and the recent footage of the war is very disturbing. And as I understand that, you have been a war survivor in your teens and have experienced extreme dangerous conditions. So can I kindly request you to share your memories of war, the fight for survival, and how did you escape? How did you handle the extreme challenges that were thrown your way?
Thank you so much for asking that very powerful question, because right now we're seeing world as a world messenger split up, and I'm going to just to share the title of my book, so that's why I also call why I'm called
Yeah.
the world messenger, so people can understand that. I had a privilege to work with people from over 120 some countries. And when I say work, it's intimately getting to know them, not only their culture, where is the country located, country conditions, social economic aspects of it, who is the president, and all of those things, but more than anything about culture itself, about tribes, about language, about dialects, about food, about music, about arts, about education, and so many elements that so many people find themselves very, very often stuck. And through that process, I had an opportunity to also have a chance to really identify. Because as a little girl, I'm just going to take you a little bit on a quick journey, if that's okay.
Yes,
As a little girl
definitely.
growing up in the heart of Europe, because when you look at where is former Yugoslavia located, and specifically Bosnia and Herzegovina, it's truly in the heart of Europe. I felt like, I always was fascinated where the airplanes are going, what is happening. And then I just knew through my little travels that at that time, in within the country, before I started traveling internationally, bigger world existed. And I was super, super curious. So I was always fascinated about history and geography. And I just want to extend something to your beautiful audience in India and other parts of the world. When I was a little girl, actually, I contributed to Mother Teresa's charity. Mother Teresa was born in former Yugoslavia, in Macedonia. So she was
Yes,
very much a role model before she even went to Africa, or actually to India, to help in Calcutta girls from prostitution and sexual abuse and
yes,
homelessness. So I'm very familiar with those elements, and I grew up with those foundation. So fast forward, I also watched Gandhi movies. I was fascinated as a 5 or 6 year old. Why is Gandhi so much loved? How simple life he lives, and why he chose that. And in the same time, why people are walking barefoot for miles and miles and days to celebrate, worship, and get together, and how everybody's so peaceful in general sense, and everybody's just specifically later on in his life when he passed away, I was just mesmerized by the culture. And then I started seeing other aspects of the culture very quickly. Before I knew it, I was exposed to conflict and war in former Yugoslavia, when internal enemy that was tearing us apart, using political and religious agenda to divide and conquer. Same situation that we're right now seeing, Russia attacking Ukraine. Same doctrine, same strategy, and honestly, it's been deja vu for me. But in between this conflict in Ukraine and what I survived, that's where I also worked with those people and dealt with so many conflicts around the world, from Somalia, Democratic Republic of Congo, you name it, Nepal, which is very close to you, all the way to other parts of Asia as well, Middle East, Latin America, and of course back to Europe. My journey was really challenging on so many levels, because instead of going to concert and being happy going to to university, finishing my education to be educator, K to 12 teacher, that I had a tremendous passion for, my life changed upside down. And before I knew it, I witnessed not only the war and being a war trauma survivor, I was also exposed based on my ethnicity to the genocide and ethnic cleansing that was not much portrayed or shared about, as well as, dealing with a lot of psychological torture. And when you start seeing what role you can play, part of this distraction or part of complacency or part of victim, I refused any of those. Those things did not work for me. And I can really say I was so young, but was so capable to make good decisions. Do you know why? So for everybody listening this, because of the foundation, how I grew up. How I grew up exactly because of my spirituality, because of great parents, great grandparents, and also watching those movies and knowing better that I am actually pacifist. I am not there to attack. I'm there to protect, and that's what I was doing while I was facing the horrible, horrible direct attacks and risks and issues. I had a goal bigger than me. And that really kept me alive. But I also was bold. I took a lot of calculated risk, and rest is history, right? As they say. But I have to say, if I didn't think on my feet, it was in times of chaos, in times of panic, in times of propaganda, in times of so much viciousness. You truly have to be constantly on your feet and every second be ready to make a decision. And that really also helped me as I lived in 5 countries on my own. Imagine being teenager with broken home, losing everything in a second, and then being on the journey of escape. And that escape takes years because not everywhere you want it, or not everywhere you accept it, and not everywhere you can get permanent residency. And what I did through that process, not only learning about, again, culture, but also languages now. English is my sixth language. Be able to adopt, to be able to also contribute. And I use the same principles when I lived in Sweden. How can I contribute there? As a result, I helped over hundreds of thousands of people from former Yugoslavia because I learned the language. And I was utilized professionally, linguistically, to help between Swedish social services, government, you name it, as well the refugees that could not learn the language or did not learn the language, it could not acculturate and adapt very fast. And then obviously through that journey, reason I'm sharing, when you put your skills and efforts again for greater good, that multiplies and ripples and creates tremendous impact, more than actually I were ever aware of at that time, more than I ever was even consciously thinking, because it was all subconscious, all on that spiritual level. Because it's like, how can I serve and be there to help that? And again, back to servant leadership from Gandhi, that was the foundation. Servant leadership from Mother Teresa, that was my foundation since I was 5 years old that I
Yeah,
could remember.
my God, amazing. The profound strength, the internal strength that you had, the foundation that you laid from the age of 5 years, and everything, and your determination. I think you had that internal belief also within yourself and the internal strength that no matter what, I'm going to fight this, I'm going to push past this, and not only for yourself, but you have helped others, and you have found ways how to help others, how to be the like learning the language and helping, be the person in between to help the refugees. And I think you are, you are such an inspiration, and I think there's so much to learn from you. We people always talk about that our journey starts from within, but more than lip movement, I think they should implement it, they should act on it, and I think you are a great, great, great inspiration. Your words were so powerful now. It was so powerful, Isabella. Such are the experience that that remain with us for life, and the trauma can be quite haunting, because it's something, traumas, once they are etched in our mind, we never forget what happened, and of course they build us as well. So considering that, how do you overcome the challenges that come your way now?
That is an excellent question. And I wanted to share something that I think can help everyone. You don't have to experience war and in such a horrible atrocities. Enough that we're seeing right now, what's happening during
Yes,
the COVID with economy, with politics, with job losses, with loved ones that are lost, and constant crisis. We cannot, as a human being, be too long yet being functional in the crisis mode. And I learned from early on, as we've seen from survivors from Holocaust, for example, Viktor Frankl in his book, a lot of times when was something I couldn't control, the war teaches you in horrible circumstances, specifically because they're so long, you don't know when they're going to stop. So being in a war for 2-3 years and then escaping, then being waiting on political asylum, are you going to be able to stay, or are you going to be deported or not? You know, and you don't have no control. I've been in such a horrible scenarios and situations, year after year, circumstances after circumstances, new rules, new policies, things that you can't believe, you can't make up, right? And yet, places you've been rejected, even though you served very well, and you've been actually positive, great contributor, right? But this is so interesting, and then why I want to share this is, quicker you learn and self-discover about yourself, the better you're going to have navigation of life and everything that life throws at you. The whatever cards are being dealt, you do the best you can, and you're going to be able to make a smarter decisions. You're going to build emotional capacity. You have intelligence, and that gets over time. But emotional capacity, how much this container can hold of all of these things that are going on, right? So that you don't have a meltdown, so you don't have all these reverse things that are put you in depression or puts you in self-destruction. I learned very quickly. I remember from early times when my grandma said, no matter, sweetie, what happened, she told me that in the times of peace, and I didn't understood till almost like she was preparing me for something that's going to happen. And as a little child, she says, Izabela, no matter what, you know that you're stronger than you know. Always tap into your strength and promise me, no matter what happens, you're not going to ever do you direct harm on yourself. And I'm thinking, why would I harm myself? I'm living in this amazing, beautiful city, and then I'm having amazing grandparents and beautiful outside of the city, gorgeous ranch where we visit, have a family lunches, dinners together on the weekends. I'm a happy kid that, you know, has the board worlds from, you know, mountains and gorgeous nature to the Adriatic coast. I'm like, I was just like, what could possibly happen? And when you know what your boundaries, when you know that you're not going to cross certain lines, that certain things are not option. Like, sadly, I understand a lot of people who commit suicide think that it's no way out, or they don't ask for help, or nobody cares. And a lot of times when that occurs, a lot of people are obviously blaming themselves or someone that committed suicide or tried to commit suicide and then luckily survived. Every single survivor said there was the moment of the weakness, and I wish I never went that far. And I wish I knew what I know today. Not everybody get that second chance, right? So we have to understand that we're going to do the best we can. We're going to build and learn about ourselves, and also learn how to manage that, right? Because anxiety is very high, stress is very high, abuse is very high, unemployment is very high. We can keep listing and list and list. And when you look at all of that, that alone will get you depressed, right? But if you have that inner strength to know, but I can change what's going on with me, or I can, while I'm waiting on the job, or while I'm waiting for things to get better, I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to learn another language. I'm going to learn new skill. My point is, every single one of us at this time of age have an opportunity to focus on something that we can control. We can control what we think. If we have so many negative thoughts, we have to question why. We can turn to listen to music. We can turn to positive friends, to positive fun, entertaining, and also educational programming, whatever might be the case. If you're also seeing and feeling that we are feeling hopeless and it's nothing there, we have opportunity to change the script, right? And more we practice, we're going to be building more and more that capacity to hold or observe or see, because it's hard to watch your family hurting. It's hard to watch someone dying because they're sick. It's hard to see someone grieving because they lost someone. It's hard to see these very dramatic, permanent changes, right? But more we embrace and say that's part of life, more we grieve and more we are honest what we're dealing with and how we're feeling, the quicker we're going to heal, quicker we're going to learn from it, and quicker we're going to be able to support others as a result. So back to your question, it is the journey, is the process. It is also putting yourself not to purposely be hurt and build a muscle that way, but being brave, not avoid the life, not avoid hard questions, not avoid hard conversations, because we procrastinate, we avoid things that give us pain or the things that are unpleasant, but those are the things where we're going to learn the biggest lessons. So I would really encourage you to tackle those and push yourself so that you can have more grounding, more stability, and more capacity to deal with the life's situations that you don't know even what could happen in next 3, 5, 10, 20 years, so that you can do the best you can at any given time.
Yes, very, very, so powerful. I was so engrossed in what you were saying. There are so many things that I was relating to as well, and like personally, me also at one point in my life, I had gone through a lot of depression. I, that time I thought this is the end. But then gradually there were people, there were strangers who pulled me out of that. And then when I started looking, I saw that everything was so beautiful. People loved me. The world was beautiful. And then I realized that all these days I was carrying a baggage and focusing on my internal grief. But now I was focusing on my internal happiness, and everything looked so beautiful. And there were people from different walks of life. I realized that they were looking up to me as a mother, and some would call me mom, some mama, mom, mother duck, rockstar mom. And that's how my name, I'm known as super mom. And then I realized, that each one of us have the potential. We have the potential, but the limitations are in our mind, and that is the reason why we are not able to move ahead. But if we try, and we always will realize that we are able to do whatever we try. When we do not have, let us try, maybe we may not reach that high, maybe we'll reach this high, but we all can do it. And of course, we have to believe, we have to understand that there will be struggles in our life, and that things don't happen overnight. We have to have belief in ourselves. So when you were talking just now, I got so engrossed in what you were saying, and there were so many things that I was relating to. How beautiful, Isabella. So what was the turning point in your life that made you start your Legacy Leaders Institute?
That is an excellent question again. Obviously, being able to work with so many people and being their advocate and voice for voiceless during their hardest time. And thank you for sharing about your journey too, because all of us at some point being depressed, and a lot of times we don't even recognize. The sooner we recognize that, we can do something about it, right? But the interesting thing is also in terms of legacy leaders, I realize when I look back, everything that was decided about my life, literally everything, specifically the most important, right? Where I can travel? Do I get approved or not? Do I get that passport? Or do I get that permanent residency? Do I any interviews, any conversations? Were always men behind the big desks making those decisions on my behalf. And some decisions were very brutal and very challenging and very shocking because I didn't expect them. And some of them I influenced and had as a result a different outcome. And I realized that we actually through all the wisdom of all their working with people from over 125 countries worldwide. And those people usually that are targeted are people that are very respected community. There are those educators, there are those, community leaders that are having followers as a result who they are, like Gandhi had during his era. And that's why usually leaders like that get targeted, because why? Because it's a fear that you will be not able to pass the bill, or your own will or own expectations and as a result we see these conflicts that are happening throughout the world. Then I realized through all of the wars that I studied in modern time, beside historical one centuries and centuries ago, right? It's like, why we're doing this to each other? Should we know more? And then where's the leadership there? And then I studied not only by degree, I had a master's in leadership and organization and fascinated about people as a behavioralist. I tackled that. I realized the modern time and had another misperception and purposely very wrong narrative. Whoever did this is brilliant, because they automatically gave any men in the power to be considered a leader and immediately to be trusted and get giving in whatever they ask. They know better because they're leaders. But the reality is, just by having the title and power, it doesn't make you a leader, and is actually
Exactly.
contrary. And that
Yes.
is what I was like, oh my goodness. So people in so many countries will trust, believe, just because of their title, position, power, financial means, and influence. But in reality, their agenda is wrong. It's not for overall greater good of other people. And when this stops, right? So it's like I'm like, I cannot be part of this environment knowing so much about where the problems are. So I created Legacy Leader Institute as a new, obviously, form of leadership development, leadership integration, collaboration, leadership alliances on the global scale. Because legacy is the top tier of all leadership. It's like a crown jewel. So you can have servant leadership, you can have many others. That doesn't mean they're not worthy. Absolutely they are. And actually the most servant leaders created their amazing legacies, as I have mentioned, Mother Teresa and Gandhi, right? But we're seeing so many others in the modern time. The thing is, now more companies are questioning who is leading us, who is among us as a leader, and also why we're doing what we're doing with the companies, right? Because what is this ultimately legacy of this company? And a lot of companies that have been around for many years, for decades, even 100 years, their legacy changed. Some things from better to tremendously worse. And people are watching, and it's a good, because they should disappear, they should collapse, because they're not doing any greater good to anyone but themselves, right? For very few, but they're creating tremendous damage in ecological, environmental footprint, psychological, with amongst other people. So it's a time also of great opportunity, because I also saw huge opportunity. How can we show what's possible? How can we innovate, reinvent? How can we reposition? And how can we establish something that is going to be inclusive, diverse, but also empowering, and bringing the key stakeholders to discussion based on their expertise, based on their knowledge, and based on overall a global interest instead of self-interest? I know it's a long answer, but I wanted you to really understand it's been years and decades of hard work and labor to really crystallize and synthesize that.
This is very good that you have started, and I'm sure it's helping a lot of people, and I'm so glad that Legacy Leaders Institute is there for others to follow and learn from. And thank you for that. And Isabella, you just showed your book, The World Messenger from Fear to Greatness. It's touching the core of readers' hearts, and it's a huge inspiration too. So you did mention about you writing that book, but once again, I would ask you: was it your life journey and all that you've learned? Was that triggered you to write your book?
This is an interesting question, and I will answer honestly what it was about, and then I will gladly share ebook copy to you and anyone from your audience on the response and directly reach out to me. When I realized what happened to me, literally, I interviewed I wanted to be Olympian, never happened because at that time was not invested in a women's sports. Women were not encouraged to really do pro athleticism, right? Because that required a lot of more training. And at the time, just in former Yugoslavia, that doesn't mean the women did not play sports, but was way more by far margin invested in men, very few and far between for women. And things over time changed, but also shows to you in the heart of Europe, where we were feeling that we're in socialistic regime, where it's a lot equal and opportunity to really tap into, still some biases were there, right? And since that did not happen, obviously I interviewed Olympians and coaches because I was always fascinated about that, and about the leadership, and also specific thought leaders. So I interviewed all men in my book. I interviewed way more people than I could actually put in this edition of the book, with premise, how did they overcome their fear to greatness? Because how they leverage their life, business, and sports lessons. Because that's how we connect to the business and business lessons from life and life lessons, right? And then also sports, because I wanted to bring everything together. But I also wanted to show, because it was also my gift to men, so they can heal, recognize issues they're having. Instead of, as somebody said, Izabela, you could hate so many men because you will have a true reason for it. And I said, what is going to do me good for? I said, just because something happened. And then later on, somebody also said, Izabela, I feels like you forgive so quickly. So what happened? I said, I don't want to be victimized, because I never wanted to be a victim. But I also, I don't want to forget, and I want to learn from it and also help others to learn the same. So it was also a learning tool, an opportunity that we don't repeat certain things in a ways where we are not self-aware of, and understanding what role we play. And as well, how the very challenging, difficult circumstances is affecting us in choices and decisions, right? So it's a great journey to help anyone to break from fear and tap into their greatness, the best version of themselves, to contemplate about their dream, about the journey process, because a lot of times when we have a difficult times, we forget about all of those things. And it's really great tool to make the new transformation at this time in our life as adults, for example, second, third, or fourth time, to reinvent ourselves, right? So I just want to say, of course, it's for youth also. It is definitely for women, not because I don't respect women that I excluded them, but because of the healing that I see that needs to be taken on this planet based on what we're witnessing on daily basis. Men need more healing and more support and more understanding so that they can bridge the gap and meet us halfway and meet us on the other side. And that is one of the main reasons.
Wonderful, really nice. Because I was going through the synopsis of your book and everything, and it was so interesting, and I'm surely going to get the book and read it. It's very inspiring. It's always very inspiring to read inspiring books, to follow inspiring people, and you are one of them. And I'm so glad to have met you. So, Isabella, what advice would you give to the women of this world?
Today is International Women's Day, and I'm super honored to be your guest. And I'm super honored that you chose me specifically for today. And I accepted. I've been invited to other shows, and I'm like, I already committed. Plus, I'm also very busy, but I felt like, the way you approach me and how you approach it. So reason I'm using this as an example for other women. When you're genuine, like you being Alakanda, it's no mistake. You came from heart center place. It's how can you say no to that? We all strive to be accepted as who we are. We all strive to be also led from that heart place, and then embrace that way, which is that genuine warmth that you can mistake it and fake it. And then also truly woman from woman. That is so, so powerful. I hope that women across the world get quickly to that level of awareness, maturity, wisdom, understanding, to know we may get attention and attraction and solution for something from men very quickly, but ultimately, foundation that you built to last, we should be able as a woman to support one another without jealousy, without drama, without sabotage, and without all of those negative elements that are really holding us back, right? By creating environment. And I love so many beautiful quotes about women shared from very wise women prior ours that said that one woman's success is also example and opportunity and success for others. We have so many amazing women who lived in different era and gave so much to us, the future generation, through their wisdom and through their support. And I just wanted to say, think about who is that for you in your family first. Mom, grandma, your children, people in community, your teachers. Think about also who gave you that strength. It doesn't mean eliminating fathers and other role models, but today, especially in this whole month of March, if we rise, if we lift up, if we show as a unified front and supportive front, then we can carry on this on every day beyond March, beyond Women's International Day, and beyond all of those things that really still hold us contained, right? And what I really want to say with where I'm going with this is that Women International Day brings a lot of tears in my eyes to this year, and specifically today. It's hard to watch what's going on around the world. It's hard to watch what's going on in Yemen. It's hard to watch what's going on in Afghanistan and Kabul. It's hard to watch what's going on in all those areas where women's basic rights are being denied. It's heart-wrenching to watch as a European what's going on in Ukraine and how people are treated and see magnitude of refugees, and specifically little girls and little children, no matter of gender, suffering.
Very hard.
And it's hard for every mother or every woman for that fact. So I feel like that we have now opportunity to also say that it's enough, that we have power, always had a power, and we need to exercise the power more than ever to show that is the other way, better way, in conflict prevention, crisis intervention, problem solution, and changing the landscape, how we coexist, how we live, and how we globally function together. So that is my wish for this Women's International Day, that we really say enough, it's enough, and it's time to change the story. It's time to change the script. It's time to change the narrative, how we're seen, how we're heard, how we're treated, and how we are leveraged and utilized in this world.
Very powerful. Thank you so much, Izabela. That was so powerful. So good. Thank you so much. And Izabela, in the end of my show, I normally have a rapid fire round. And
Yes.
If you're okay with that, should I
Yes.
go ahead with it?
Yes.
Okay. So, end or beginning?
Beginning.
End, beginning. Uh, Theater or web series?
I'm sorry, what?
Theater or web series?
Not sure.
Okay. Vacation or staycation?
Vacation.
Okay. Reading or listening to music?
Music and reading, both.
Okay. Love or life?
Love or life? You got me there. Love, 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 love. Because when you love, you have a life.
Yeah, you like autumn or winter?
I'm sorry.
Autumn or winter?
Ooh, autumn.
Autumn. Long drives or long walks?
Both.
Actually, it's both for me too. So there we done with the rapid fire round. And before end this, I just want to read the words by Meghan Markle. She said, "It is said that girls with dreams become women with vision. May we empower each other to carry out such vision, because it isn't enough to simply talk of equality, one must believe it. And it isn't enough to simply believe in it, one must work at it. Let us work at it together, starting now." And to this, I add my words: may we empower each other as human, regardless of gender or gender preference, to carry out such vision. So thank you so much, Isabella, for being here and making this evening so wonderful here, and this event so wonderful, so inspiring, so engaging. I was totally and completely drawn into what you were saying. And thank you for being an an inspirational leader for all of us. It's always nice listening to you, listening to your podcast. They are always so good. So thank you for being here. I want to thank Success Psyche as well for the support here. And thank you to everyone who are listening or who will be listening to the recorded show. And thank you very much. And there is a message here from Niloy Roy Chaudhary. Happy Women's Day. Alaknanda and Isabella, the two favorite power ladies on LinkedIn.
Thank you, Niloy. Great to have you with us. And Alakanda, thank you again for bottom of my heart for creating this amazing event and opportunity. And I just wanted to say, shine on so brightly, and your messages are so powerful, inspirational, and positive. And I just wanted to say, just continue being this beautiful beacon of light, because we need more of those across the world. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Isabella. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye.